I have asked a couple dear friends to do a couple readings, and just a couple short excerpts from the book. And I'm going to ask my dear friend Beth McAdaragh. Yes, McAdaragh.
I've been called worse.
Mary Beth is the Executive Vice President of Marketing at CBS Distribution. She heads up all the marketing for Judge Judy, Dr. Phil, The Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy. And she is just an amazing person who was adopted and wasn't really knowing whether she wanted to search or not, and eventually did search for her birth parents. She found an amazing connection when she, growing up in South Dakota, had this burning desire to work in television. And she just didn't know why, because South Dakota was not like a hotbed of production. But she just knew she wanted to do that. And in the end, when she did her search, turned out her birth dad was an anchor on the news, and it just, some things are genetic. And she talks a lot in her chapter about peeling the onion and trying to discover who you really are. It doesn't mean anything about your relationship with your parents. It's just kind of the root of who you are. And she says, she talks in the beginning of her chapter about that her birth parents had an affair. They were both married, and they both had children. And her birth mother was in an abusive marriage. She was trying to get out of it. They were living in that South Dakota area, and she was the product of that affair. And she wrote, as she's talking about that, I am already crying as I write this, and I don't know why. It's funny. I, of course, don't remember any of this, but I do believe our cells never forget. And Mary Beth is going to share part of her chapter.
I'm crying already, and not because I'm unhappy. I am thrilled to be adopted. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. But your cells do not forget. And I don't know where these come from, and so forgive me. These are tears of joy. But I wish that we could all give Lori a round of So thank you very much. You know, I have always believed, and I do this at work, that you start every meeting out by saying thank you. And so I say thank you to Lori, and I say thank God for being adopted, because after finding out how my life started, thank God that I got given up and adopted. It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I thank God she gave me up. I thank God she didn't have an abortion, because he wanted her to have one. But she had 3 daughters from this marriage, and she was Catholic, and I thank God, because I am thrilled to be here. And so I will just read a little bit from my story. One day I picked up the phone and called her. I figured I might as well give it one more try. The names have been changed here, by the way. I asked, is Charlotte there? And she replied, this is Charlotte. I caught my breath and said, this is Mary Beth. Is this a good time? And she said, there will never be a good time. That hurt. She went on to tell me that she had received my letter and that she could have nothing to do with me. That the man she was married to didn't know about me, and that she had a defibrillator and her heart couldn't take the stress. She was cold and she was distant, but began to warm up a bit as I began to ask her various questions. Are you petite like me? Yes. Do you have blue eyes? Yes. And that's the first thing people notice about me. And I said, me too. I told her I had a great life, a great career, and amazing people who had always taken care of me. She asked if I had met Paul, my biological father, and I told her that I had, and that I had gone into the same field of work as he, ironically. Finally, I asked her if she would send a picture of herself to me. I hate getting my picture taken, she said. Me too. And I brought a dear friend who's a photographer, she can vouch for that. I hate getting my picture taken. She said she would send a picture if I would send one of myself, so she started to warm up. But followed by saying that she wanted no more communication after that. To my surprise, I received a letter from her indicating that she was having 3 pictures made, and they would be sent to me in a few weeks. It also stated that she would write on occasion and tell me about her life. She said, if it makes you feel any better, I want you to know I did think about you often, but I'm sure you had a better life than what you would have had. I gathered up a baptismal picture. There were no pictures of me prior to 7 months, that's when I was adopted. A picture of a 6-year-old me in a ballet tutu, and a third of what I look like present day. I wrote a note thanking her so much for the picture exchange. I added that I wouldn't contact her anymore and that I had a great life. Lo and behold, a few weeks later, I did get the pictures from her and a letter, not a friendly letter. The sentiment had changed. It basically said, here's what you wanted, I hope you're happy, and don't contact me again. But there was something important in the picture. The dress she was wearing in the picture matched the dress that I wore on my senior prom. The exact same color, the exact same style. I mean, we looked exactly alike. She had the same eyes, the same cheekbones, and the same lack of lips. And that was it. I had heard her voice, I had gotten the picture, end of story. So I say to adoptees, I would say this, go find out who the hell you are. Do not take rejection from your birth parents personally. In my case, the fact that she didn't want to see me isn't about me, it's about her. This was probably guilt of having to unearth the terrible things that were going on in her life at that time. Both my birth parents had the exact same reaction. I can have nothing to do with you because that was a very difficult time in my life, they said. To adoptees and birth parents, I would say that we deserve to know who we are and where we came from. This is our birthright. We need an anchor, and if we don't, we're like a dandelion that someone blows into the air with no tether. And to adoptive parents, let your children go find themselves. Let them do the work to become whole. I understand the fear that you have. You have loved them and nurtured them, but there is a natural curiosity. Where did these blue eyes come from? Was it just a coincidence that our dresses were exactly alike? And why did I want this career in television? And there's one more thing that adoptive parents need to hear. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mary Beth. That was really beautiful. So we have one more reading, and the reading is from chapter 23. Patrick Gray wrote Words of Love, Not Rescue. Patrick lives in Idaho, so he can't be here. He has a wife and 3 children. One daughter was adopted from China. And he wrote a book called I'll Push You, a couple books, but I'll Push You is the story of his lifelong friendship with Justin, and it led to Patrick pushing Justin's wheelchair on the epic Camino de Santiago pilgrimage in Spain, which is amazing. That it was a difficult trail, and he pushed this wheelchair, and it just became a great story. And I saw him on the Today Show, and I contacted him, and I saw that there was a child, an Asian child in his family, and I just thought, you know what, he sounds like a really great guy. I'm gonna contact him, and sure enough, he wrote a beautiful, beautiful chapter. And so I thought, well, we need to have somebody special read his chapter. And reading an excerpt from his chapter is a very dear friend of mine. He is best known for his 10 years as Dr. Cliff Warner on ABC's All My Children. and his 29 years as Jack Abbott on CBS's The Young and the Restless. He's received 21 Emmy nominations and 3 Emmy wins, as well as 2 Soap Opera Digest Awards for Lead Actor and 3 Most Valuable Player Awards from Soap Opera Update. He is the most decorated actor in Young and the Restless' history. His other TV credits includes guest starring roles on The Nanny, The King of Queens, The 5 Mrs. Buchanans.
Come on.
All right, I'm getting to the most important part. He has 2 fabulous children who I love. He's been married for 33 wonderful years to my best friend and my huge source of encouragement and help, Mary Ellen. I love you both, and now I give you Peter Bergman.
I got to follow Mary Beth, so
I'm glad.
that's fantastic. So Patrick had many jobs through his life, and among them was some time in an outpatient children's pediatric ward, and he had this experience. You know what? I'm not sure my eyes will do the small print. So
Would you like to borrow mine?
So I have this. The girl was 9, adopted only 3 years prior by her mother. She'd come into her forever home from a foreign country and had adjusted to the United States, and that had not been easy. The trauma she'd experienced in her first 6 years of life had led to mistrust and behaviors that were challenging, and her adopted mother had reached a tipping point. I watched as this woman refused to hold her little girl, who was reaching out for comfort. The mother was angry because of a previous outburst and was embarrassed by the girl's behavior. In that moment, she leaned in close so she was eye to eye, nose to nose with her daughter. Piercing stare, clenched teeth, and finger in the tiny face, the woman scolded, "I saved you from your life. You should be grateful for the love I give you." She then leaned back, crossed her arms, and looked away while the little girl cried. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, he wrote. Regardless of the chain of events that brought this mother to this point, her words were vile, and they broke my heart. I can't imagine what they did to that little girl's. Her understanding of love was being painted with ugly colors and wickedly ragged brushstrokes. It was a defining moment for me. I always believed in the power of our words and actions. The power to build up and the power to destroy exists in so much of what we say and do. But as I watched part of that little girl torn apart by 16 words, uttered by someone who claimed to love her and refused to hold her, I witnessed a remarkably terrible force. The force of manipulative, guilt-filled love. My wife and I have 3 amazing children. Our eldest daughter, Cambria, and son Joshua joined our family biologically. And our youngest daughter, Olivia, blessed us through adoption from China. The 5 of us are complete when it's 5 of us. We are a family. We are blood. Olivia, like my other children, needs to know there is nothing she can do to earn or lose my love. She will always have it just because she is my daughter, not because of how she behaves or who she is or who she becomes. But so much of who she is and who she will become one day depends on how I behave, who I am, who I become. Olivia is a wonderful, beautiful, funny, silly, rambunctious, strong-willed, intelligent, sweet, and kind. But these aren't the reasons I love her. I love Olivia because she is my daughter. This kind of love isn't earned and it isn't taken away. It just is and always will be because she is my daughter and I am her father. My daughter Olivia was never someone to be rescued. She was always a beautiful creation that I should embrace, love, and thank every day for making my life better and for making my family whole. To every father, to every mother, your words and actions have remarkable power. Regardless of how your children entered your lives, to be a parent is a privilege and a blessing. Every day we have the power as parents to bring heaven or hell into the lives of our children. Let your words and actions show love. Love without condition, love without manipulation, love without motive, just love.
That's a beautiful chapter. They all are. They're all just amazing. So that's just a sampling. The book has birth parents, adoptive parents, and adoptees. They give advice, they give suggestions, they tell what they did wrong, they tell what went right. And it also is very applicable to any kind of relationship that needs some navigation. Step families, blended families. I mean, heck, in just regular nuclear families, I think there's some great advice in there. So I'd like to just quickly do a few thank yous, if you would indulge me in that. I'll be fast. I want to first thank Zach James, Derek Biddle, Jeremy Kozolo, and Evan Herringer here at Zefr. I mean, what a space. Really fabulous. I want to thank our sponsors who donated our wonderful prizes. Their names have been going up here. They're on the table. Please put raffle tickets in there, and we're gonna when I'm finished, I'll ask Sarah to come up and do some of them. I don't want to bore you, so we'll do some of them, and then we'll give you a chance to get some mini cupcakes and maybe a little more food, and then we'll do the last few. But they came, these sponsors were great. I appreciate that so much. Familius, and my publicist, Kate Farrell from the publisher, they donated books, and they've been very supportive throughout this. All my contributors, my gosh, the book would be nothing without you, obviously. And I just have to say, Johnny Ware Barnes, who came from Louisiana to be here with us, that you come from the farthest distance, so also here, I hope I don't miss any of you, but I also Elizabeth Kate is here, and of course Mary Beth is here, Evie de Mendoza, you know, Azada, I don't know if I know. Yeah, how do you say it? Stolken, yes, whose husband plays golf with my husband, so we love that. Sharon Dahlberg, Christine Wilson, and Andrea Robinson. And is anybody else here? I think that's all that was going to be here who contributed. Okay, great. Anyway, thank you for being here. Obviously, I want to thank my birth daughter, Kate, who wanted to be here in the worst way and couldn't do it. Her sister, Mary Ellen, and her adoptive mom, and my dear friend, Anne, who opened their hearts, all of you, and their stories. I appreciate it. I just want to thank my family, my daughter, Taryn, who was very helpful during the reading and editing stage, Hallie, who, even from Thailand in the Peace Corps, was supporting with her thousands of friends on social media and shares and all the encouragement. And then, of course, Taylor, where are you? Yeah! When I started unraveling from the weight of putting this launch on, she stepped right in and took over any job I gave her, and I really appreciate that. And one of the jobs was getting volunteers. Thank you to all the volunteers who came and helped out. My sister Linda and my BFF Mary Ellen for coming in and pitching in always and supporting, helping out, and then my husband Steve, who I supporter and is encouraging, and there's nobody like him. I'm just so blessed. So again, there's food, There's mini cupcakes are coming out. More wine, drink the wine because we got wine. And I'm going to introduce Sarah Wilson from Harvest Home. I joined their board in April. And man, this organization has touched my heart. They help homeless pregnant women, not only shelter them, but give them new lives. They teach, they give them education, they give them career counseling, how to, parenting resources. They do everything to lift them out of poverty, and my gosh, the alumni stories will touch anybody's heart, just like these adoption stories do. I mean, to me, it was two missions, trying to help people to make the best decisions for their children. So Sarah's going to come and do some of the raffle prizes.